This movie is the perfect example of what's wrong with the Chinese regulations imposed on horror films. Hi, I'm the Arty Dance from Asian Film Fans, and welcome to episode 8 of my Chinese horror movie reviews. And this one could be the weirdest one yet. The problem is, I don't actually know what this movie is called in English. Hey, why are you asking me for? I don't know. Do I look like I know? Wow, rude. Anyway, its Chinese title is BiXian Jiaying, which roughly translates to The Pen Fairy's Grudge. But there's more. The title within the movie says Bunshin Saba, which you might know is a popular Korean movie, as well as an excellent and popular Chinese trilogy as well from the same director. This movie has nothing to do with that. But it also has an alternative title, BiXian vs. Kayako. That's right, the spirit from the Japanese movie The Grudge makes her fifth? I've lost count. Appearance in a Chinese horror movie, where she frequently gets into fights with BiXian, the Pen Fairy. Yes, this is a versus film full of Chinese horror movie restrictions. And it's completely ridiculous. Let's check it out. You can check it out. I'm out of here. Hey, wait. Come back. The plot of this movie makes sense, but it's far more suited to a drama or thriller movie than this. University student Chen Chen and her friend Jiang Jiasi, who both spend the first half of the movie in a high school girl uniform for some unknown reason, travel with Chen Chen's high school crush Xiao Feng to her grandmother's house in a small village. So you're saying this movie makes sense. When they arrive, it's kind of like a high school reunion, with their other friends Ling Fei and Fatty Feng also waiting for them. With Xiao Feng's wife and Chen Chen's high school friend and love rival Fang Feng also turning up later in the day. Grandma is sick because an evil property developer who uses dirty tricks is trying to kick her out of her house, a large Chinese-style mansion that's also the home to sick and homeless elderly citizens of the village. Apparently, he owns the deed to the property, but he's still trying to buy her out. How does that make any sense? I agree. That part makes no sense. Anyway, he is apparently a very superstitious person, so the gang decides they will call BiXian, the Pen Fairy, to help them out, hoping she will haunt the mansion and scare him off. Only, ghosts, not real. But BiXian does appear. Word gets out that the mansion is haunted, and the developer and his cronies want to spend the night there. Ling Fei ends up dead, and Kayako makes a dramatic appearance, intent on scaring everyone away. Not to be outdone in the fake ghost stakes, BiXian comes back and challenges Kayako to a weird bitch-slapping and high school girl choking fight where the identity of the two ghosts are revealed, and the developer's plan is thwarted by a technologically literate grandmother. That was actually the most surprising part of the film. If you've seen any of my previous Chinese horror movie reviews, according to your stats, no one's watching them. Why do you keep making them? Anyway, if you've ever seen any of them, you know that the topic of ghosts is covered in almost all of them, and it's usually either a person dressing up, a dream, or a hallucination. You see, Chinese films are not allowed to show ghosts, which for a horror film can be pretty restrictive, so they work their way around it by doing some stupid things that annoy the audience. Chinese horror movies don't have a good reputation in China. Genius, what about a Chinese ghost story, The Eye, and maybe even The Rope Curse? Huh? Explain that. Well, while Chinese is spoken in the film, they're either from Hong Kong or Taiwan, where these restrictions don't apply. And let's hope for the sake of good Asian horror movies, they never do. Damn you for having an answer to that. So yes, the Chinese government doesn't think that its 1.4 billion citizens can handle movies about ghosts. Even though ghosts are a strong part of their folklore and foreign horror movies are very popular, even if they aren't officially available. it's not just ghosts that are affected in Chinese horror movies, it's pretty much anything supernatural. So that rules Jason Voorhees out, although I do have a surprise in the future with a Chinese version of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and creatures like Annabelle. Excessive gore is also out, no Saw, and no Hostel. What about a movie that criticizes the Chinese government and portrays them as soulless demons who hunt down innocent schoolchildren who crave freedom? That would be the movie Detention, the brilliant 2019 multi-award-winning horror movie based on the video game of the same name. And indeed, that's fully banned in China. Just try finding Detention on a Chinese website and see what happens. They act like the movie doesn't even exist. Oh, but it is. First, it's poorly acted, it's badly translated, and it's shockingly over-edited. Some scenes alone have half-second edits that are just completely out of place. I get it. The editor was trying to make the movie more interesting by using multiple edits. It just doesn't work, right? Nah, that didn't really work, champ. I said the movie would suit a thriller type scenario because essentially it's about running off the developers and exposing their nefarious ways. The main antagonist, the property developer, is a bit of a dick, but he's also kinda awesome. He gives a lot of grief to the agent that's trying to kick the grandmother out, but then he hands his two young daughters a massive wad of cash. It must be thousands of RMB there when they want some money to go out. An amazing character, who's also shit scared of BiXian. Don't act like a tough guy. We know you'd be scared too. She has hair. We know how much hair scares you. Touché. The protagonists aren't any better. Chen Chen and Jia, who do eventually change out of their school uniforms later in the film, are supposed to be psychology majors. So that should automatically mean that they shouldn't believe in any of the hocus pocus when it comes to the pen fairy, right? Except Jia spends the whole movie terrified of something that realistically she should know doesn't exist. Perhaps it's the translation, but Chen Chen's lines are always so matter of fact. Lighten up a bit, Chen Chen. What about the fat guy? Of course, the token fat guy. A useless character that never changes out of that shirt, not even once. And the movie is set over about 3 days, so you can just imagine a fat guy sweating over a black shirt. Ugh, that's gotta be kinda gross. Well, I could only imagine. And the best part about Fatty, and the movie calls him that, not me, is that he gets with his childhood crush, Ling Fei, early on in the movie. And by getting with her, it's kind of forced. Now, I'm not saying the R word here, but it seems like Ling Fei likes assertive men. Also, he seems to have the kiss of death, because she ends up dead and he makes a terrible joke at her gravesite. He actually sounds like a bit of a prick. Is there anyone in this film who is likable? Well, maybe that's Fang Fang, the wife of Xiao Feng. While she's a bit of a nag, married life does that. She's also probably the smartest one of the lot, but not by much. You see, she knows BiXian's not real, so she decides to do the next best thing. Dress up as BiXian. Whoa, spoiler. This whole video's been a spoiler. I'm sure I put a warning at the start. While she does a great job at being BiXian and scaring the people in the mansion into believing it's haunted, it's also pretty obvious that it's her. These people have known Fang Fang for their whole lives, and they couldn't recognize her? Again, tough guy, if you were being hunted by a ghost, you wouldn't be able to recognize who it was either. It's the hilarious revelation that occurs in the movie that all of a sudden shifts the ghost from BiXian to Kayako. And that realization is that BiXian is supposed to be righteous, meaning that she's supposed to be a good ghost. And because Kayako is Japanese and the whole war thing at Nanjing, it makes perfect sense to have a Japanese ghost as the evil spirit. So Al Fang Fang ditches the BiXian costume and dresses as Kayako instead, to really ramp up the haunting of the mansion. How does Feng Feng end up playing both characters at the end is the question on your mind. And in fact, the answer to that is quite simple. Oh, let me guess. It's one of the other girls, right? Yeah, that's it. It's Chen Chen. She finds a knapsack with the BiXian costume in it near the house when she's running away from Kayako. She then decides to put on the costume, including the full makeup, which I assume only took her 3 minutes, considering the timeline this all occurs in, and then goes back to fight Kayako in one of the most hilarious fights since I made a movie in high school. I remember that film you made. It was pretty bad, even for a high school student film. The hilarious part is when the director has forgotten it's mere mortals in the ghost costumes and has the girls flying around like they really are ghosts. It's quite dumb, and it's the ending this movie deserves. Because the developer realizes it's just these two girls playing dress-ups and tells them to kill each other so he isn't suspected. But this is where the kick-ass granny comes in and saves the day, and does something that my mother wishes the characters in her favourite TV show, The Young and the Restless, would do. Record the other person saying evil, nasty, vile, horrible, incriminating things. Even with that ending, my mother would still hate this film. This movie might be stupid. Really stupid. But at least there's some effort here. The set of the mansion where Granny lives feels like a lived-in residence. There's lots of old furniture, the electricity is a bit dodgy, and bathing is done by fetching pails of water to fill up a wooden bathtub. The only thing it's really missing is dust everywhere. I think Frightening Embroidery Shoes, made the same year as this, stole all the dust in China and used it in their set. Wow, that was also a terrible movie. Why do you keep watching these stupid movies? I think I secretly like them. They're so bad they're good, in a bad way that bad movies can be when they try to be good. Make sense? It's not too long, it's not too confusing, and it's not going to be mistaken for anything good. Using my patent-pending ghost rating, which stands for great horror or stupid trash, this movie gets 2 ghosts. Why? Well, because I like the whole BiXian versus Kayako ridiculousness of the film. Someone legitimately wrote this script, then found investors, then found actors and filmed it, then edited it, used copyrighted music, and then released it with some of the worst English subtitles ever. And then some idiot in Australia watched it and made a video on YouTube about it. What's not to admire about that? You are a sick man. You need to watch better horror movies. If you want to see some videos where I do look at good Asian horror movies, then check out my series starting in March 2021 called Must Watch Asian Horror Movies. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to support the channel and keep up to date with my latest videos like this. Thank you for watching.